my name is Manuel Ortiz. I am Vice President of Global Business Development for First Pathway Partners, and I'm so glad to be joined by two of my favorite people, Bernie Wolfsdorf, Managing Partner of WR Immigration. Bernie, I've known you for many, many years, and it's just great to be able to talk to you about EB-5, which is stuff that we do on our own anyway. But, thank you so much. Maybe if you want to give us a brief introduction would really be great. And also, we're joined by Sonia Clark, who heads up our efforts in South Africa.
Well, thank you, Manuel. Truly a great pleasure. As our audience can hear, I'm originally from South Africa. I've been gone almost 40 years. I left when I was very young, but I do like to brag that I am a graduate of the University of Natal, or as it is now known, KwaZulu-Natal. So over to you, Sonia, and look forward to updating everybody on the EB-5 green card option.
Thank you, Bernie. And yes, very nice to have a fellow South African or ex-South African with us today. You're an incredible individual, and it's such a pleasure to be on here with you today. And of course, we're going to be seeing you in Cape Town on the 5th of September. And anybody on today that want to meet Bernie in person, we are taking consultations. So please reach out to us after the webinar.
First, let's maybe start off a little bit with, Bernie, and maybe we can talk just generally about EB-5. One of the things for us is First Pathway Partners started in 2008. We've been one of the leading regional centers in the industry. We're founded by Bob Kraft, who served 6 terms as the head of IUSA, which is the National Trade Organization for EB-5. And so for us, really trying to execute for our investors is our primary motivation. We have a 100% track record in investors obtaining their permanent residency. And we really are very particular of the type of projects that we pick, but also the people that we work with as well. The EB-5 program started in the 1990s. It was started by U.S. Congress. And Bernie, I know you've been practicing EB-5 for many years and all sorts of immigration. And maybe if you could give us your presentation and just talk a little bit about how you've seen EB-5 evolve throughout the years.
Absolutely, Manuel. So firstly, I want to start off by saying our law firm, WR Immigration, I'm based here in Los Angeles. We've grown a lot. We're 10 offices, 200 staff right now. So, and I have the privilege of being the managing partner. But I have known Manny for over 10 years, a true professional, extremely knowledgeable in the field. And most importantly, I have known Bob Kraft now for it's over 15 years. This is one of the most established regional centers. And just to clarify what Manuel explained, Bob Kraft is head of IIUSA. IIUSA is the industry association. So every respectable regional center belongs to IIUSA. So great depth of knowledge and great leadership. I'm going to start off by hitting the nail on the head. If you're interested in EB-5, there's 2 basic issues to achieve EB-5 success. Very, very simple. Number 1, we want to get the green card in a reasonable time. And number 2, we want to get you your money back within the legal prescribed period. So at the end of the day, the goals are pretty simple. So I'm going to go into the weeds a little bit with my little green card update. And just to explain, this is not legal advice we're giving today. You can see I've become an American lawyer. The legal advice you will get is when you hopefully meet with me in person on September the 30th in Cape Town. I'm going to be staying at my favorite hotel, the Mount Nelson. So hopefully you'll be meeting Sonia and me for tea. We hereby invite you and your friends to come and meet with us, talk about EB-5, talk about your goals and aspirations, and we can get into the weeds of how this program works. So that's me again, but I do like to say this is a fake picture because it's about 10 years old. So nobody updates their pictures anymore, but I can get away with it. A little bit of bragging. South Africans hate braggarts, so I'll just stick to from Durban. And my so-called claim to fame is I was the president of the American Immigration Lawyers. That's, believe it or not, 17,000 immigration lawyers in America. Kind of crazy. So a little bit about our office. We all passed over this, the best of the best, the greatest of the greatest, blah, 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 the usual stuff that everybody has to hype nowadays. So here's the breakdown of what I'm going to talk about today, respecting your time. Number one, EB-5 requirements. Number two, EB-5 process, or as we say in South Africa, process. Now, there's two basic ingredients for EB-5. Number one is you have to prove that the money is legal, source of funds. And number two is you have to choose a good project. So project analysis is absolutely critical. Sonia and Manuel will get into that. I do not get into project. I stay in my lane. I'm the lawyer. I handle the legal side of it, which means the source of funds, although Sonia will help you with that as well. And that is to prove how the money was legally earned. So basic requirement, very simple. You have to make an at-risk investment. You always say, well, why can't I just put 800,000 into a bank account? The answer is they don't feel that that creates jobs. Some people talk about partial payments. I do not like partial payments unless the money has been identified and you're in the process of moving the money out. So we show lawful source of funds, and then we have to create 10 US jobs. Now, the beauty of the regional center is we don't need actual jobs. We have indirect employment. So this is based on expenditure models usually, but the bottom line is that is the key reason why. People ask me, well, why don't I just do direct EB-5? I'll go there, I'll open up an office, I'll hire 10 people. Because it's going to cost you 3-4 million in salary. That's why. And that's why you want to choose a regional center. I do not like direct cases. They tend to fail. All right, so here's the process, quite simple. Number one, select a good EB-5 project. Now, I just make this very simple. 90% of the equation is not selecting me or even Sonia. It's selecting a good project, and Sonia will help you through that process. So I just cannot emphasize how important it is to choose a good project. Then we put together the legal source of funds brief. That's my job. Then we give you the green light. You invest the capital. Then we file this form 526. Now, I want to talk very briefly about concurrent filing. The beauty of the new law is that if you are in the US legally, and we'll have to get into that in person, I can't really get in. If you're in the US legally, we can actually file in the US. We get your work permit after 3 or 4 months. I mean, it's phenomenal. But for most South Africans, this doesn't work. They tend to want to wait in South Africa. How long will it take? I'm guesstimating 2 years, but it could be faster. Government's been a little bit slow to get this new program off the ground, but could be within 18 months to 24 months, but it's very hard to predict with precision. For those of you who want to talk about concurrent filing, look forward to meeting with you on the 30th. We might even be able to do some telephone conferences because I'm only in Cape Town on this trip. It's actually a family trip, but I thought I'd throw in a little bit of client meetings, help pay for the airline tickets. And you get a 2-year conditional green card. Now, people, well, why it's only a 2-year? It's no big deal with a 2-year conditional green card. That's exactly the same as a regular green card. And Sonia will explain to you what the benefits of a green card are, but in a nutshell, this is the right to live and work in the United States for the rest of your life. And after 5 years, to apply to become an American citizen, which is something that I strongly recommend. So after 2 years, 21 months actually, we have to file the removal of conditions. We have to, at that point, show the money was fully invested, jobs created, and then we're pretty much home to US citizenship. So the government's a little bit picky on this source of funds. It's kind of like a forensic accounting analysis. People are kind of a little bit surprised sometimes. If the money comes from income or salary, it's on tax returns, usually okay. But this is something that requires some depth, some analysis, and considerable detail to show the money is lawfully earned. Many of our clients already have the money out of the country. That's kind of okay, but we still have to show how that money was earned initially before it was put into an offshore account. So as I explained, the critical element of this program is job creation. We want to make sure that your investment is safe and that your capital will be returned. And it's very important to look at the track record. That's why you want to work with an experienced, long-standing regional center that's got a track record that you can evaluate, and that will help ensure adequate safety for your funds. In a nutshell, and I've said this already, here's the 3 key ingredients. Number 1, choose a good EB-5 project. Number 2, strong source of funds documents. And the least important, me, a good immigration lawyer, the only thing I can promise you is I'm very direct with clients. I'm almost scared to sort of give you the numbers because people will be shocked at how many cases we file, but most of the work we're doing at the moment is out of China and India. I'm off to China again next month, and they order these things for breakfast. Not quite, but it's a little bit easier. So that's my pitch for today. I don't know if we're going to take questions at the end or at the beginning, but I hope that I will have the privilege and opportunity to help you on your immigration journey. And should you work with First Pathways and feel comfortable with their project, we would be the lawyers who will take you through the process from the beginning to the end. And all I can tell you is I'm available, I don't want to say 24/7 for emergencies, yes, but we like to be very responsive, look after our clients, because South Africa is a very small country and you either get a good reputation or a bad reputation. I like to believe we have a good reputation. So on that cheery note, I believe it's over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Bernie. Yes, you touched on some of the things I wanted to mention as well today. But I just want to first rewind a bit and just say I've been involved in EB-5 since 2010, and the years are flicking by. I actually can't believe how fast time is going, and the industry has just changed so much. And I'm just so grateful, for Mr. Kraft that was involved with that whole Integrity Act, and with IIUSA getting the program reauthorized. And so, yes, we've been in the lull, and when it picked up again, it picked up a little bit slowly, and then we were waiting for USCIS to pick up their processing, and eventually now I think we at a time that also, now that we've got the opportunity of our rural project, which I'm going to let Manuel go into, you've got premium processing, so it goes a little bit faster. And we're very happy to introduce Kaya by Atul Citizen. I'm just going to touch on it. It's in Utah. It's in the vicinity of the Grand Canyon and also Lake Powell. I think what's most important for EB-5 people are saying, well, what do I get? And I think it's more of, you can look at it as a permanent solution. If you're going to go on a student visa, it's just a visa and you've got your limitations. If you're going to go on a work visa, also just a visa, whereas the EB-5 visa is more of a permanent solution, not just for one person, but it's for the whole family, husband or main applicant, spouse, and all children under the age of 21 an amount. And I think the most important thing is where Bernie was touching on, the track record of the regional center. Happy to say we've got 100% success rate. You know, we are looked up in the industry, you know, our competitors look up to us, should I say, in the industry. And I'm very proud to be with First Pathway Partners, also known as FPP. So generally people will say, well, what do I get for the EB-5 visa? Well, you know, you've got full access to the US. You're not limited to where you need to stay. You can live anywhere. You can open a business. You don't have to, you don't have restrictions on language requirements or anything like that. You can travel anywhere. After 5 years, you know, you're eligible for your US citizenship. And then obviously the US passport as South Africans, it just opens up the globe. You know, you don't have to issue, you don't have to worry about going for visas to be issued to get a Schengen visa or go to China. And, you know, these things are really time consuming and they've become really, really expensive. Whereas if you've got your American passport, you can travel anywhere across multiple destinations globally. But also if you just want to keep your green card, that's also fine. It's good for 10 years. I just want to touch on the education benefits. The education benefits are huge for a family applying for EB-5. Because if you're coming in under a student visa, you're considered an international student. And then when you finish, as far as I know, that you have to apply for a job in whatever you studied. But in terms of you there on an EB-5 visa, I mean, you're not an international student anymore, and the savings are astronomical in terms of, you know, what you'd be saving.
After 1 year, you can get in-state tuition.
Yes, Bernie?
Yeah, I was just saying after 1 year, you can get in-state tuition in several states, California, New York, etc., where the tuition is reduced massively. So instead of paying this 50, 60, 70,000, you can often come in much lower at like 30,000 or so.
And then I think also one of the major benefits too that Sonia's mentioning here as well, and Bernie, I know you've seen this in your cases too, is that when you graduate as an international student, you have a certain period of time to get a U.S. corporation to sponsor you. And from the U.S. corporation standpoint, that's an additional cost. And the willingness of corporations to do that has actually gone down. And then the approval process for that type of visa, which is called the H-1B, is also very difficult to get. So as a U.S. resident, which you would have with the EB-5, you do get the tuition savings, but you are also able to graduate and work wherever you want, and you're not just kept captive by that, which I think is a big freedom that you actually have.
Huge. Actually, just coincidentally, I'm doing a workshop with Berkeley, which is one of the top universities here in Northern California this afternoon, and exactly on this issue. And quite frankly, it's a little bit sad. The H-1B approval selection rate was about 30% last year, which is devastating for a lot of these kids. They're graduating, they've spent a fortune on education, they get a 1-year work permit. For STEM, it's renewable, but at the end of the day, employers don't want the headache. The job market is very good in America, by the way. America, you know, the state of the economy, I mean, yeah, we got an election going on, which is a little bit crazy, but the state of the economy and the job market, the salaries that are being paid to entry-level, well-qualified candidates is extraordinary. But as Manuel explained, employers don't want to go through the hassle. They've got well-qualified American kids, and the international students are having a lot of problems getting sponsorship, which is why, again, I'm doing this workshop this afternoon. That's something organized by the university itself. So back to you, Manny. Or Sonia.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yes, and thank you for that. And I think that's what you touched on too, that I think is really important, is that as an international student, you spend those 4 years, maybe sometimes less, and you're finishing at the top of your class. You've worked so hard for that, only to finish up there. And what's really sad too is that some students don't realize that's the situation until the very end. And so I think, you know, what we're trying to do here is just educate and show that there are other options for students that are looking at this. And Sonia, I know you've had children that have lived in the U.S. and have gone through the migration process as well, and you've worked with many families that look to the U.S. as a solution where their family trajectory changes for generations to come.
100%. Yes. So my youngest son, um, he was in the US Navy. He became a citizen. He was under 18 at Appalachian State College. It's safe. It's beautiful. You know, all those things. He says he just wishes his brother that's in South Africa would join him there. Yes, and I mean, we hear all these stories all the time. You know, I've had sad stories of friends of mine that their kids have studied there and they've had to unfortunately come back, and it's such a disruption. And you know, and exactly what you say, Manuel, it puts you on a completely different trajectory. Mouthful. You know, if you do become an EB-5 visa applicant, you know, it just eliminates all the worry. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the reality of what I find is that most people do this for their kids. Sadly, they don't see a long-term future in South Africa, which is truly very sad and unfortunate. But this is the best gift you can provide your kids, which is the opportunity to live, work in the United States. For us old guys, you know, when I was young, the medical care in South Africa was superb, the best in the world. Unfortunately, too many of the good South African doctors have gone, including my brother, who is a professor at Harvard. So, you know, it's kind of a little bit of a downer when you get old because you want good medical care as well. So I like to emphasize that in America. I think, Manuel, you're in Houston, right? They've got some of the best medical centers in the world, right?
That is correct. It is the home of MD Anderson, and they have some of the best hospitals in the world there as well. That's correct.
Look, you know, I'm a South African at heart. I love South Africa. There's no country more beautiful. The food is phenomenal. The people are awesome. But at the end of the day, you want to look at opportunities for your children, and you want to look at healthcare for yourself and security for yourself. And I believe America has that. Unfortunately, the crime rate in South Africa seems to be out of control. A client just called me yesterday talking about this armed gang that raided his factory. It sounded absolutely terrifying, but at least he made it through. And by the way, this guy just got his green card in Johannesburg last month through the EB-5 program. It took a little bit of a while. And the reason I wanted to mention that, and Sonia mentioned this as well, is that the program actually lapsed, the old EB-5 program. And thanks to FPP and their key owner director, who is the president, Bob Kraft of the IIUSA, they managed to pilot through a new law. This is called RIA, the Reform and Integrity Act. And let me tell you, folks, it's a good law. I like it. It provides adequate and additional protection for investors. And I'm sad to say that was needed. But this new program is much more secure, much more transparent, and puts more transparency through the whole program. So you see where your money is going, and you can feel more comfortable.
We're touching on some really important things here of how a family can be affected into the future. And I look at my own case where my grandparents on my father's side migrated from Spain in the 1920s. And back then, EB-5 didn't exist. And the way that they did it was my grandfather and his brother flipped a coin to see who would get a chance to come to the US. And my grandfather won. And he had a 50% chance, heads or tails. And so he ended up winning, and that's how he came to the US. And when you look at the beauty of what EB-5 actually is that you have better than a 50% chance when you partner with a good immigration attorney, with a great immigration attorney like Bernie that is documenting your case and your application for the US government. When you're partnering with reputable regional centers like First Pathway Partners, where we have 100% approval rate in investors obtaining their permanent green card. Those chances are a lot better than having your coin flip, right? Like my grandfather had. But if you look at that, and if he wouldn't have won that, he, may have never come to the US, and I may not even be here, right? So I think those are the things that you think about where EB-5 is so powerful. It's more than just an investment. It's more than just a government program. It's something that helps and benefits your families and really just changes the trajectory of things. And I think, for us on the project side, we looked at many projects when EB-5 restarted back at the beginning of 2022. And Bernie, I'll come back to you with some questions on the closing remarks side of this, because when it came back, one of the things that you heard was, rural projects are going to get expedited processing, which is great, because if you were an investor that was coming from, let's say, some countries where there's high demand like China or India, some of those wait times were 19, 15, 16 years. I mean, just incredible wait times there, where now that's actually decreased in some cases where you're seeing approvals in like 9 months, right? So the EB-5 program has gotten a lot better now. But the point that I'm making on the rural side of things is that for us, that whole process started back at the beginning of 2022. We didn't launch our first rural project really until about May, really June of this year, because we wanted to find an asset that actually created value. And that's what's hard to find, because you have to find an asset to create value, because that's what dictates an investor's ability to get their money back. As an investor, what you want to kind of think through is to hit it on EB-5 and do well, you have to look at it from two perspectives. On one side is the immigration side of things. You have to get your I-526 approved, which is the first stage, where the government is checking your source of funds, how the funds got to us. On the other side, your 829, there the government is looking for job creation. Each investor needs to create 10 jobs. Where are those jobs created? So you have to be able to execute on that. And working with an immigration attorney that's able to document all those things is super important. But then there's also the investment side, right? The immigration side is what gets you your green card, but on the investment side, that's getting your money back. So you have to be able to conduct really strong due diligence on the investment side of things, because that's how you get your money back. And I think oftentimes when you start hearing, labels as you conduct your due diligence on EB-5 just in general, you start hearing, hey, a TEA project is better, or hey, a rural project is better, and all of these different things. And there's so much misinformation that's out there that at the end of the day it boils down to two things: the immigration side and the investment side. And on the investment side, the best way to look at something is to say, how am I protected in this investment? Are there more banks involved, or is the regional center the only one that's providing the loan? What's our position in what they call the capital stack? Are there any additional guarantees that are provided to protect my application process or my investment? You can never guarantee that you're going to get your money back, because like Bernie mentioned at the beginning, your funds have to be at risk, but there are ways that you can structure projects conservatively on behalf of the investors. And I think that's one of the things that we do. The project that we have is called Kaya. It's located in Kanab, Utah. On the immigration side, we're very happy to report that it's been recently approved by USCIS, so that's great. We've closed on the financing, so the capital stack is actually intact as well. And investors are in the first position. And there are no other banks. If something goes wrong with the project, we can take over the asset and sell it and get investor funds back that way. Typically, when there are more than one bank that's involved in a situation like that, it does get dragged through the legal process, and that takes forever. And sometimes the bank that is the smaller one doesn't win. So I think here we're in a very strong position from that perspective as well. And please reach out to us with any other questions. And Bernie, I didn't know if you want to mention something there as I was talking. I saw you unmute, and I didn't want to leave that thought in your mind.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify again, under this new RIA law, the rural projects are given priority processing. And you mentioned 8 months. I've actually got some approvals in 3 to 4 months, but you're accurate that 8 to 10 months, just because we file a lot of these cases, I'm not getting 3 to 4 months at the moment, but we are getting 8 to 10 months. And here's the other good news, Manny. Just again, last week, we got another family that was in the U.S. adjustment approval that took about 10 months. So wow. This, for those that are in the U.S., like F1, if you've got a kid in the U.S. who's a student, as I say, we can do concurrent filing. And instead of waiting in Johannesburg or in South Africa for the green card, they actually get work and travel permits while they're waiting in the US. And again, Manny briefly mentioned there's basically two types of priority projects, the high unemployment HU project and the rural project, but the statute was pushed through by Senator Grassley from Iowa, and for that reason, agricultural, scratch that, rural projects, not agricultural, rural projects, they're located in a rural area defined as a population of 20,000 or less, and outside an MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Commuting Area. I'll keep away from the legal definitions, but just bottom line say that this particular project, which FPP is offering, is a rural project, which means, and if I'm not mistaken, Manuel, you also got a 956F approval. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can maybe explain how important that is? Because quite frankly, once you've got a 956F approval, the only other issue is the money clean. I'm going to get the approval on this case. I'm going to get the green card approval. So priority processing, congratulations on your 956F. That means the government's already approved the project. This is huge, folks. Almost to the point where I say, be careful investing in a project that doesn't have 956 approval. So you know the government's happy with the project. The only other thing is your money clean, and are you a good guy? No criminal arrest, etc. And I'm going to get your green card. So good priority processing, and for those people in the U.S., concurrent filing, my favorite. As I say, these rural projects are classified as priority for processing because they're investing in a rural area. So back to you, Manny, and I see we've got the wonderful Sonia back.
Yes, we do. Good to see you again, Sonia. And I think now we can just go to closing statements, but I would just highlight too what you said, Bernie, as well, that the 956F project approval is huge. One of the things that I've learned from too is that there have been recently a run on some rejections on some projects that didn't end up getting approved. And what happens there is that basically your immigration process is basically null and void, because you know what the government is looking at as your methodologies for the regional center, which is just typically the regional center can mean two different things. One, they use it as a term to describe companies like First Pathway Partners, but it's also the government approval over a geographical area to conduct EB-5 business. So they look at the regional center, then they also look at your job creation methodology and all the immigration aspects of things. So if you don't know really what you're doing, or some of the stuff isn't done correctly, you'll get rejected. And so for us, having that approval is huge, because it does give us the certainty that Bernie's talking about, that, you know, we've structured this correctly for investors. And now, you know, you really have to look at the investment side of things, is again, going back to how am I protected as an investor, because that's how I'm going to get my funds back. And then so with that, you know, I'll just go ahead and pass it on to Bernie for some closing statements. But I would like for you to add just a couple of things too, because you touched on it and you kind of stole my thunder with the question I was going to ask you, but also just, why is it a good time for EB-5 compared to the pre-RIA right now? Because there have been so many changes now that are just beneficial to the investor, that, you know, you're starting to see much more demand now. And I think sometimes people psychologically will say, well, look, I'll just wait until next year, and then, or I'll just wait till a couple more years. But really, you know, lessons are learned from 2015 to 2019, what happened with the program too. So maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we can wrap up with some closing remarks from Sonia as well.
Yeah, you know, what happened is the previous program lapsed. And so we had a gap of about 18 months. And then again, thanks to IAUSA and Bob Kraft and their negotiations with the government, they passed this new program, March 22, President Biden signed it, but it's a 5-year program. We only got another 2 years. Those cases that are filed are grandfathered and protected. So for those of you who want to sit and wait, number one is, we don't know if there'll be an extension or another one. I hope there will. I expect there will, but there's no assurance. And number two, they put in a provision for adjusting the minimum investment amount. So it's going to go up. It's going to be adjusted according to inflation indexes, and you can expect to be paying substantially more than the current minimum $800,000. The other thing that I want to talk about is, look, I have to be direct. You know, a lot of my clients were a little frustrated because we were anticipating 2 to 3 years, and then we had the program lapse for a year and a half. So it's ended up taking a lot longer. This stuff doesn't get easier. But this new program, as I say, does have priority processing, which is huge. There will be an increase. And there is one thing that the silver lining that I can share with most of my clients. Most of you know the exchange rate is sort of hovering at what, 18, 19. For those people whose money was abroad, many of them invested, you know, at 13 or 14 and got this huge big windfall with the exchange rate. And, you know, I don't know what, I'm not an exchange rate expert. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it doesn't seem like the rand is getting stronger nowadays. Yep, the gold price went up, so I suppose that gave it a little bump. But in the long term, as far as I can see, the dollar is going to remain strong, and having your investment in dollars seems to make a lot of sense. Most of the world seems to believe that. You see the US stock market has gone crazy, kind of insane, how good it's done, which is an indication of, in my opinion, the economy generally. So back to you folks. I think I probably had enough of me blabbering, but I do want to emphasize that I will be in South Africa for a very short period of time. I'd be delighted to meet with you or your friends. So please contact Sonia, reach out to her. Love to meet with you in person and explain the program in depth and outline a plan of action for you and your family to live the American dream. I think I've lived the American dream. Many you were born here, but not me. And I'm so proud that I've got 4 kids. Yeah, that's a lot of kids. My little baby girl, she's at Columbia University doing an MBA. My little boy, he's 20. He's not little anymore. He's 6'3". He's at USC, University of Southern California, doing a business degree at Marshall. And, you know, hey, it's all about the kids. And this is my joy. My eldest kid's also graduated from college. And the opportunities for these kids coming out of school as American citizens and people with a green card, I'm just going to have to say endless. I'll give you a little story about my daughter. She's got her mom's brain, so she's very smart, not mine. And she graduated and was hired as a tech consultant. She had a minor in computer science. Her starting salary was, I believe, about $130, $140, something like that. So just give you some idea of some of the salaries that are being paid out there. She's anticipating completing her MBA, starting salary around $250 to $300. I mean, of course, we've got to see whether that happens, but that's the kind of salaries that are being paid in private equity, which is her area of specialty. In a way, you're in kind of private equity, right, Manny?
That is correct, and honestly, I would just say congratulations on that, because that's just such a great achievement, and you really see the power of education and being able to work wherever you want as well when you go through all of that hard work as well as your university. So congratulations to you and your family as well.
Sonia, we've been doing all the talking.
Yes, I hope my internet connection's stable now. Just give me a wave if it's not. But I just want to say thank you, Bernie. I mean, you're a real inspiration, and yeah, you've walked the road. You know, you've had your kids graduate. I mean, mine's just starting off, you know, at university. So, and it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see that the life and the opportunities the kids do have there. And I just wanted to add to your point about the rand. I mean, right now, I was looking at it this morning. I mean, the rand was 17.49 this morning. And, you know, if you are looking at at transferring your funds or putting funds aside, you know, now's the time to do it. Don't wait for it to go up to 18, 19, you know, etc. Because, you know, you want to save yourself a lot of money. You know, it's now's the time to have a look at it, even although you're preparing for your EB-5. But seriously, I mean, you know, I know a lot of investors have already gone down that road, but I mean, have a look at it now as well, you know, while the rand is good, like we put it over here. And yeah, so I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to have you with us. And I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody on the 30th of September at the Mount Nelson. Just give me a ring because we're giving everybody an hour slot. Yeah, and it'd be wonderful just to take the conversation to the next level. So thank you, and thank you, Manuel, as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, Sonia, so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And please reach out with any questions. And we look forward to seeing you in person. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We've got a limited number of slots, so please reach out right now or and refer your friends, because honestly, I'm only meeting with clients for that one day. This is a personal or family trip, but I do hope to come back sometime in the future. I'm off to China again the end of October, where, as I say, they order these things with their breakfast because there's been so much capital appreciation in China. I know it's harder for South Africans, and this is a lot of money, but to be able to live the American dream, I think, is priceless. So, but I'm biased, of course. So on that cheery note, thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you in Cape Town. I guess, you know, we could also do a video conference if necessary, if you're, you know, can't make it down. But do look forward to helping you on your journey. And again, you know, I'm independent. I don't work for FPP. We file a lot. So my job is to look after you. You're my client, and I'm here to advise you from start to finish. And I hope I'll have the privilege of helping you on your American journey, should you choose this path. And in my opinion, it's the best, but I'm biased. So on that cheery note, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Sonia. And we look forward to seeing everybody very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much.